forced march. Can you tell us about that?
Well, we had more than one.
Oh, well, what was the one that was near the end of, in March of 45 or so, or April when the Russians were coming, you were moved?
Yeah, we were in Stalag before. The trip before we got from 6 to 4 is one special item. They packed us up, like I say, and they had a warehouse full of our food. They gave each man two cartons, which we carried with whatever we had accumulated. And on our way from 6 to 4, they put us into these cattle cars. Standing up, packed like sardines, and we went to the coast. I forgot what the name is. Baltic, is it? Or was that south? I can't remember. I'd have to look at a map. Anyway, and they drove us by train standing up like that. A lot of guys were urinating, defecating, throwing up. It was a holy mess. We got to the port and they packed us into a freighter. And this freighter was empty down below. And there was a ladder that we went down, and they started to pack us up like sardines again. I took my belt and I ran it through the side of one of the ribs and partially hung myself that way above the crowd that was packed in there. Some of the guys bribed the sailors later to open the hatch and bring down some water for cigarettes. And when they got the cigarettes, they almost drowned us with water. I never urinated on the whole trip. I think it was 3 days. I just hung there. I lost track of the days, but it was about 3-4 days, I think. And we went down the coast to Poland. What's the name of the big city? Boy, this stuff is really fading. Yeah, I'd have to read to come up with it. Sometimes it pops in minutes later. So we unloaded, and like I say, I never ate, drank, and never urinated. So when I climbed up on the top, they wanted us to urinate before we boarded the train, and I just couldn't go. So the guy takes my hand and sticks it in a bucket of water, and I did a little bit. It wasn't much. I was really getting dehydrated. So they put us in this train. Now, half of it, they had some timber, the tree stuff, and a little straw on it, and we sat in a circle in the half side. The other side were some young, I think they were going Marines. They had long French bayonets on, because France was already capitulated. And so we rode, and we had one smart aleck that he escaped, I think, 3 or 4 times. He was a Jew. Why they didn't shoot him, I have no idea. Anyway, so we're all wearing everything we could put on, carry, and it got hot in there. So I opened one of the packages, and it had a milk can, with, with the rounding key. We were handcuffed together. They're Mickey Mouse handcuffs, but so I triggered one of the cuffs, and then I took my jacket off, and then Harley wised up. I gave him the key, and they started passing it around. When it came to this choker, he unbuckled himself, and he shows the kids the key. So I don't know how they communicated, but they did. Stop the train. They want to shoot the whole bunch of us. There's maybe 50 in the train. So our camp leader was arguing, They had taken our shoes and belts away too, and were handcuffed. So there was a big argument for about a half hour, and that went over. And we finally reached a little depot. It was a very small little depot. I wouldn't call it a depot. It was that, and there was a box in front of it, and we get unloaded, and they give us our shoes and belts back. And then they lined us up in front of this major or colonel, I don't know what he was. And he starts talking in German to the young Marines. And make it short, these are the killers of our women and children. He had a little Austin, looked like, that he got in. And he really harangued these young kids. He steamed them up pretty good. And so we got lined up, and we're starting down the dirt road. It's all trees, can't see anything. We don't know where we're going, how far it is. And then he made us go, not in marching, but out of cadence. Now you know how that goes. It's like a seesaw. And guys were falling down. So he's riding in this little Austin, and he's hollering at the kids, make them run, stick them. I told Harley before we started that speech, I says, we're going to get help. So we were kind of prepared for that. So I don't know how, I never got the figure. I think it was probably 1.5 miles, 2 miles, that we were out of cadence going down this dirt road. Guys were dropping everything on the road they couldn't carry. And one guy, I think he got about 40 stabs in the butt. That was the figure I got in him. And so finally we made a turn, and I could see a camp out there. I held on to everything, and we went into a big interrogation building, and they took our, like fools, never ate any of that stuff when they gave it to us. They took away the packages and stored them somewhere. And then one guy felt me up and down. He's the only German that whispered in my ear, I'm sorry.
Wow.
I mean, I almost fell over. But he was doing his job, you know. So then we lined up in Stalag 4, and then the Russians kept coming. We stayed there about 5-6 months, I don't know. I forgot the time. And they said, we're going to go on a march. So everybody packed up what they could carry, and by that time I had accumulated 2 pair of pants, 2 shirts, and an English overcoat.
Mm-hmm.
So they marched us out of the camp, didn't know where we're going, and we walked from daylight to dusk. My calculation was almost 800 miles. And it wasn't in one direction, it was up and down and back and forth.
Sounds like they really didn't know where they were taking you yet.
They were just keeping us, and the word from the commander said, do not try to escape. It was easy to do it. By that time, the guards that we had from the camp, they disappeared, and they had guys 60, 65-year-old. They could hardly carry their rifle. So escape was easy. A lot of guys did. You know, they didn't listen to the commander. And we went from dawn to dusk. If there was a barn, he got permission to pack us in there, give us some kohlrabi that they dug up, or some of the pigs didn't get their potatoes, and we just walk from day. We had about 2,000 airmen, I think, in this one lager. I don't know how many dropped off the side. I had one buddy. They made a big mistake. The first night, I think it was raining. We marched out until dark. Then we found a barn. Got permission to go into the barn. And they undressed, or they took off their the biggest problem was they took off their shoes. So in the morning when they had to get up, their feet were swollen and they couldn't put their shoes on. So they walked barefoot, whatever, carried their shoes, and it was starting to get, we were 3 months actually on the road. That's how I calculated the 800 miles.